Ben Sherwood and Chris Edwards, and we're wrapping up our week on trying to train Americans to think out of the box. Look, these might not be the answers that we need in the end, but we need to start thinking about what happens if that crazy guy at 5 o'clock is actually right? What do we do? And that's the secret. And I learned that from you, Ben, when I read Survivor's Club. It's the most important thing you can do is to think about, what if that crazy thing, that crazy idea over there is right? Right?
You got to imagine the impossible. And in fact, that's what scenarios are all about. The best thing that the military can do when training a fighter pilot is put them in simulators in which the scenarios are so tough that when they come back from a real mission over Iraq, when they come back from a real warfighting mission, they say, oh, that was nothing compared to the simulator.
Right.
That's the key.
Our grandparents used to say, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And if it falls anywhere near the worst, you're prepared.
Right.
Okay. So 10%, the 80-10-10, or the 10-80-10, 10% when faced with a crisis respond the wrong way. What do you mean by that?
So the 10-80-10 rule has been studied across all kinds of disasters going back 100 years. Earthquakes, war, terrorism, natural disasters. 10% of us in a crisis, a disaster, do the wrong thing. We behave in negative, self-destructive, counterproductive ways.
Intentionally, some intentionally or not?
Well, this is what is often known as panic. It's not a technical term, but people panic and they behave hysterically and they actually do negative, self-destructive things.
They were the people like in the Poseidon Adventure when we were growing up and they were kids and they were like, get a hold of yourself, man. That's 10%.
That's 10%.
Got it, I got it.
That's right. 80%,
yeah,
and that's most of us, 80% become bewildered. We fall into a stupor. I think you did a very good imitation in the first block of your program. We freeze.
Right.
Stupor. This is known, the technical term is behavioral inaction. You do nothing. You wait for someone in a position of authority, that's the magic speaker that you described,
right?
Someone to tell you, evacuate the building.
Okay, now that's critical. If I may go back to the Poseidon Adventure, because this all works. Those who remember when the boat turned upside down and Gene Hackman was like, you're all going to die down there, get on the Christmas tree and come up. And most of the people were saying, no, he's a crazy man, don't do that. What do you even know? It's not just someone to lead. It's someone of authority, of traditional authority. Someone who, that's why people don't listen to me about the economy. What the hell do I know? I don't have a degree on anything. What do I know?
The interesting thing in a disaster, for instance, a plane crash, is that people, and they've studied this, wait for a flight attendant to come to their rescue and tell them what to do and where to go. But in fact, in about 30% of the time, flight attendants are incapacitated in these situations. And so you're actually on your own. And so the key, and this is exactly what we're talking about, is how do you flip the switch from being in that big 80%, and I definitely, having looked at survivors all over the world, think that I'm in the big 80% category.
Yeah.
How do you flip the switch to get into the top 10%? And that last 10%, those are the leaders. They're not necessarily the people with a uniform. They're not necessarily the guy with authority. That 10%, often quiet, often reserved, unexpected leaders, they're the ones, when a crisis happens, who respond decisively, purposefully. They know what to do, they've got a plan, and they take action. And they often save a lot of those people in the 80% who are milling around trying to figure out what to do.
Do any of the first 10%, I mean, how many does the first 10% convince in the 80% to go the other way, to sit here? No, don't grab on the Christmas tree, don't go with him, because that's who that would be, right? If the Poseidon Adventure, the upside-down Christmas tree, Gene Hackman's up at the top, he's in the last 10%, the other guys who all died, you know, and everybody's like, oh, suckers. Those guys, they pulled a lot of those people and said, don't go. Which one, the ones that go wrong are probably saying, no, don't, wait, stop, wait for somebody for authority. That's probably a bigger pull, isn't it?
You know, in every situation is different, and across all of these different disasters, this is a standard distribution of how people behave. The most important thing for any person facing any survival crisis, any challenge, is to have the mindset, the outlook, which is something could go wrong, and what am I going to do? So that when someone's shouting at you, don't go that way, go this way. Don't go that way, go this way, you've actually already thought about it, You've rehearsed in your mind what you want to do so that you can take that action.
That's what we're trying to do with the show, because if these things happen economically, you have to have some basis on it. Now, how does this last 10% affect the 80%? How do they, what can they, I think that's what Tea Party's doing. People say all the time, I've talked to all my friends, I've talked to my neighbors, I've talked to everybody. What do I do?
So I have a slightly different view about this, because I think that it's not actually the 10% in the top who lead the 80% to safety. That's good for movies. But I think in life...
I saw the Poseidon Adventure and the remake. It ended the same way both times.
In real life,
yeah,
the key is to tell the 80% in the middle. And that's what the Survivors Club is all about, as you know. It's how does everybody learn the basics of anticipating the worst.
How do you do that? Most people don't want to. They're like, oh, that's crazy. And our system is set up that people are screaming on both sides, saying, don't listen to the other side. So they don't. They just shut up, and they just stay in the middle.
Survival is a mindset. It's a way of seeing the world. And the people who watch television news shows, who watch Glenn Beck, or who watch across the spectrum, are information seekers. And information seeking, learning, is probably the most important thing to moving from the 80% into the 10% who respond decisively.
Okay.
What that means is if you are actually seeking information, you're figuring out what your plan is going to be, you have a much better chance of getting over the normalcy bias and doing something.